Tonight on Cronkite News, the Diamondbacks sweep the Rangers out of Phoenix, Arizona, with 2 games of sensational scoring outputs.
Plus, undefeated Arizona State will take on Texas State Bobcats. What will be a road game for ASU should have some familiar faces for defensive lineman CJ Fight. And former President Donald Trump makes another stop here in Arizona with just weeks to go before the election.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Keith Hall.
And I'm Nash Dara, and thank you for joining us.
If you're not excited about the Diamondbacks playoff hunt just yet, we'll get you there. They just took the top spot in the National League wildcard race.
That's right, Keith. The Diamondbacks have the day off today, but they just finished a 2-game sweep of the World Series champion, Texas Rangers. The Diamondbacks were relentless in their 14-4 win over the Rangers after getting out to an early lead. Arizona operated at a high level at home and had 13 extra base hits, which is a season high for the team. Merrill Kelly gave up only 1 hit through 3 innings, but the pitcher had to leave early with a cramp in his hamstring. The D-backs will have to keep an eye on that, but the sweep of the Rangers helps them in the standings.
They overtook the Padres by half a game in the NL wildcard. Remember, only the top 3 make it into the playoffs. The New York Mets currently hold that 3rd spot. And just out of reach, the Atlanta Braves with 16 games remaining. Arizona has an eventful weekend ahead of them. A series-long dance with the Milwaukee Brewers, who are the Central League division leaders. The Diamondbacks yesterday talked about the critical series ahead.
Yeah, they're a good team. They've been hot, kind of just like us, so it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, that's a great team. We've been seeing more, obviously, of the Central teams with the new scheduling, but yeah, we're looking forward to it. We always seem to throw off a couple good games against those guys, and they're having a great year. We're having a good year, so it should be fun.
Hopefully, Arizona won't lose Merrill Kelly again to injury. They've had enough key players out already. But good news is ahead, Nash.
Yes, most of the starters who have been out are making their way back into the lineup. Let's go to Brady Hansen now at the touchscreen, who tells us all about the Diamondbacks and how they've been able to make a go of it despite their injuries.
The Diamondbacks have had a few injuries throughout the season, but as of right now, only a few key players are missing from the lineup. Those players are left fielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and catcher Gabriel Moreno. Gurriel Jr. is the most recent injury to the Snakes, dealing with a left calf strain. Prior to hitting the IL, Gurriel was hitting .274 with 17 homers and a 106 OPS+. The absent outfield spot goes to 5th-year Snake Pavin Smith. Smith is what many baseball fans refer to as a quadruple A player, which is a player that finds himself balancing between AAA and MLB. Smith was called up on August 19th and has been making an impact so far. In the month of September alone, Smith has hit 4 home runs with 10 RBIs to the tune of a .316 batting average. This kind of production is exactly what the Diamondbacks will need out of Smith until Gurriel's return in mid-September. Gabriel Moreno is still dealing with a left adductor strain. His return is also expected in mid-September. This is Moreno's 2nd IL stint this year after spraining his thumb in June. Despite his small sample size this season, Moreno is playing well, boasting a .262 batting average to complement his 41 RBIs. Although replacing Moreno is tough, Adrian Del Castillo has been a great alternative so far. The number 14 prospect in the Snakes system made his debut a month ago and has already recorded 4 homers in the big leagues while batting .293 with 17 RBIs. His defense could still use some work, but he will most definitely be a solid backstop until Moreno is able to return. Now, coming into the home stretch of the season, the Diamondbacks find themselves on top of the wild card with the race between the Padres, Mets, and Braves. Until Gurriel and Moreno are able to return, Smith and Del Castillo will need to keep up the good work to hopefully help the Diamondbacks find themselves in yet another magical postseason run. From the touchscreen, Brady Hansen, Cronkite News.
And manager Torey Lovullo said this week that Moreno is almost game ready. One big player who did return to the lineup recently is Christian Walker. Walker hit 2 home runs in Game 1 of that series against the Rangers. Getting these key players back is sure to give the team an extra boost as they remain in the playoff hunt.
The season's long, it's grueling, there's going to be injuries along the way, and there's a lot of really good players in this clubhouse, so to think about potentially getting better and getting Gabby back and hopefully Gurriel back soon, I think it makes a big difference for sure.
We need all the bats that we can get, but in the meantime it seems like people are stepping up, so we don't want to rush them back by any means, but we know that, once the postseason starts, when we get everyone back healthy, we're definitely going to be in our best, case scenario.
One team already heading to the playoffs is the Phoenix Mercury. Although the team needs to clean up a few things as they have the most technical fouls in the WNBA. They have a total of 32 technical fouls this season, which is an all-time WNBA record. Last week, Diana Taurasi received her 7th technical foul. It was later rescinded. Natasha Cloud also received her 7th and had to sit out for 1 game. Now they are going into the playoffs looking to fix some of their past mistakes. Coach Nate Tibbetts says he likes their competitiveness on the court, and the team has good defensive focus despite the fouls.
I loved our defensive focus, our competitive spirit. I thought we helped one another, and our rebounding was really good. So that, I've kind of said it all years, offensively taking care of the basketball, and then defensively just going and rebounding as a unit.
I think we're still finding ourselves when it comes to the controllables. I think we were better today, letting certain play calls go. It gets frustrating sometimes, but I think it's a work in progress, and game by game, as long as we're seeing progress, I think that's all we can ask for.
To college football now, where Arizona State gets their first road test of the season as they take on Texas State tonight.
Yes, and while it's a road game for ASU, it will be a homecoming for one of the Sun Devils' key leaders. It's a quick turnaround for the 2-0 Sun Devils after their big win over Mississippi State last Saturday. Now ASU is in San Marcos on short rest to battle a tough and also undefeated Texas State team in non-conference action. Sophomore defensive tackle CJ Fight is in no stranger to Texas and had a little extra motivation coming into the game.
It's fun, just to go back home, have a lot of family come to that game. So just to play in front of them again, it feels like high school, just having the whole family. Right now I have, I think, around 13. I had to get 13 tickets, so that's around 13 people are supposed to be coming because I have family in the Austin area, people in the San Antonio area, and then obviously people from back home, my hometown. So just trying to find tickets to get out to them.
Coming up next, the Sun Devils' massive victory over the Wyoming Cowboys was not as pleasant of an experience for those watching from home.
That's right, Fox's decision to broadcast the game remotely has been met with some resistance. The trend of remotely broadcasting games continues to grow, but many are not happy with the subpar product that is being produced.
Plus, cooler temperatures are finally in the forecast. We'll have what we can expect over the next few days coming up.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized. Individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
As we mentioned earlier, ASU kicks off against Texas State on the road today. ASU alum Matt Berry will be on the call for ESPN. And don't worry, fans, the broadcast team will be on site for this one.
Yes, Keith, the fans were pretty upset when the Sun Devils' first game on the season was called by a Fox Sports team who was doing it from an off-site studio location. Our Stella Ty has more on the remote broadcast in sports and how they are a growing trend.
the Sun Devils cruised to a 48-7 victory over Wyoming on their season opener. However, many fans didn't like the decision Fox Sports made, broadcasting ASU's first game in the Big 12 era without announcers in the stadium. In fact, this wasn't the first time when Sun Devils game was broadcast remotely.
The origin of the remote broadcasting trend certainly was COVID-19. In the wake of COVID, I think a lot of network television people figured out that they could provide an effective, acceptable broadcast of certain events, like the first Sun Devil football game this year being an example, on a remote basis as simply a cost-cutting measure.
While it could be the network's priority to cut down the expenses, unfortunately, fans' viewing experience is compromised too. When broadcasters are not on site, they can't have a one-on-one interview with coaches or players. They can tell the audience how bad the weather is or how fired up the fans are, let alone some potential technology issues could be involved.
We ran into a number of times where the video that we were receiving was not in sync with what was happening, also with the play clock. And so there were a number of instances where we thought play had stopped because we thought we had heard a whistle, but it didn't. The play clock was frozen on our screen.
Last Saturday, the Sun Devils had another home game at Mountain America Stadium. Lines of fans were waiting outside the stadium following a huge win in the first week. The game was on ESPN, who sent both announcers and silent reporters to Tempe.
It's just a lot better, and I think it comes across better when they broadcast at the game because they're being involved with the school, with the game, with the students. It's just about involvement.
I would not be surprised if periodic remote telecasts remain for the foreseeable future, because I think network executives have found that you can do a passable broadcast without sending your crew on site. Is it as good a broadcast as it would be if they were on site? Probably not.
Although the COVID pandemic is in the rear mirror, remote broadcast is likely to continue whether fans like it or not due to the amount of money it saves the networks. In Tempe, Stella Tai, Cronkite News.
ASU and Arizona have moved on to the Big 12, but their former conference is making a comeback. The Pac-12 is adding 4 teams to its roster. The Pac-12 is rebuilding after being devastated by conference realignment. The conference currently consists of Oregon State and Washington State. But come 2026, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State will all be joining the Pac-12. The NCAA requires a conference to have at least 8 schools to participate in the Football Bowl subdivision, and the Pac-12 is in the middle of a 2-year grace period, giving them the opportunity to meet the requirement. Football season is here, but not the football weather. It's been pretty warm across the valley.
But as Marco Radice Morris tells us, things are about to cool down.
Thanks, Nash. We're going to dive straight into that evening planner. It's 99 degrees at 7 p.m., so much cooler than usual. And we're going to get down to 91 at 10 p.m., so those late evening strolls can probably occur much earlier than usual. Looking at the low temperatures, Phoenix is warmest at 82 degrees, but the Colorado River cities aren't far behind. 81 degrees in Lake Havasu, 76 in Bullhead City, and nice and chilly up north in Flagstaff, 45 degrees, and the Grand Canyon at 40 degrees. Looking at the highs again, Phoenix is hottest, 105, although Lake Havasu and Bullhead City aren't far behind, 103 degrees, 102 degrees respectively, and as expected, Flagstaff 75 and Grand Canyon 79, so much cooler up there. Now, the decrease in temperature can probably be explained due to the wind speeds, particularly in the south and the north, 24 miles per hour in Ajo, 22 up in the Grand Canyon, and much less in Phoenix. Now, looking at the 8-day forecast, still in triple digits at the start of the weekend, but that's going to change. 97 degrees on Sunday, and would you have a look at this? We are down in the 90s consistently next week, 92 Tuesday, 91 Thursday, which is much lower than the average of 102. So could we potentially be seeing those full temperatures stay consistently? Let's hope so. Back to you guys at the desk.
Hurricane Francine finally made landfall on Wednesday as a Category 2 hurricane.
Francine hit the Louisiana coast with wind speeds around 100 miles per hour. In addition to the strong winds, Francine also dropped heavy rain into the area, causing roads to flood and power outages to tens of thousands of people. Francine is expected to weaken, but will still produce lots of rain as it moves further north.
Meanwhile, in California, the bridge fire burning in LA County continues to grow. So far, nearly 50,000 acres of land have been scorched, and about 40 structures have been destroyed. The bridge fire is currently being called the largest active fire in California. Fire crews have been working for days to contain the blaze, but officials are worried that it will grow even bigger.
Coming up next, the controversial question of how to fix the achievement gap among Arizona students.
One side says the solution is more funding for private schools, and others say fix the system. After the break, what possible solutions could look like, and if the experts think the issue can be solved.
3, 2, 1.
Coming up on The Cut.
Coming up on The Cut.
Coming up on The Cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized, individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
Welcome back. I'm Ryan Pasesnik with your top Arizona news stories. Former President Donald Trump was back in Arizona today. The former president spoke at an event in Tucson this afternoon. Supporters were seen lining up outside the Linda Ronstadt Music Hall as early as 6 a.m., with some even camping outside the venue. The former president spoke about the economy and the cost of housing. This is the former president's third visit to the battleground state since June, and this comes just 2 days post-presidential debate. Legendary singer and Arizona native Linda Ronstadt isn't happy Trump is holding a rally at the Tucson venue bearing her name. The theater was known as the Tucson Music Hall until it was named to the Linda Ronstadt Music Hall. In a statement, the 11-time Grammy winner said she felt the need to say something since the venue is named after her, saying, quote, "It saddens me to see the former president bring his hate show to Tucson." She signed the statement saying, quote, "Call me what you want, but this cat lady will be voting proudly in November for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz." The second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, is also in Tucson for the Harris-Walz campaign. According to the Harris campaign, Emhoff will focus on Harris's vision for a, quote, brighter, more hopeful future compared with the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. This is Emhoff's first visit to Tucson. And there are only 53 days until Election Day and only 25 days left to register to vote in Arizona. The deadline is October 7th, and you can register in person or online. And the last day to request a mail-in ballot is October 25th. In Arizona public schools, there's an achievement gap among students, but the question over how to fix it is a controversial one. Lauren Bly reports from Washington on how two groups are proposing to fix the problem.
The conservative Common Sense Institute Arizona suggests that public funding for private schools would empower parents and close the achievement gap. But Save Our Schools Arizona, a nonprofit that fights for public schools, says the solution is fixing the system that most kids are already in.
Plucking out a few kids and putting them in micro schools is a better solution than fully funding our public schools that serve 92% of our kids and 98% of our low-income students. It's nonsense.
Common Sense Institute Arizona wants taxpayer-subsidized savings accounts to help parents pay for private school. The group highlights federal data commonly known as the nation's report card that shows Black and brown students testing lower than their white peers in reading and math.
Not reading on grade level at third grade, you're less likely to graduate from high school. You're even less likely to go to college, and you're just not as likely to find meaningful employment.
Lewis points to socioeconomic disparities and argues that vouchers wouldn't help the students who need it most.
Local public schools are serving 99% of those students, and that vouchers are not being utilized by low-income families.
Standardized tests in Arizona show that about 28% of Black students and 29% of brown students were proficient in English language arts, and that's compared to 55% of white students. And when I asked why, Katie Ratliff told me, how can some students learn when they aren't in class?
They're either being suspended or expelled.
Data from the Arizona Department of Education also shows that non-white students receive more discipline, as do students with special needs. Black students make up 5% of the school population statewide, yet they account for more than 10% of suspensions. In the 2020 to 2021 school year, 27% of expulsions involved special needs students. That's more than double their share of the student body. Lewis says public schools in Arizona are working towards fixing these disciplinary gaps.
I think that things are improving. Do I think that it's perfect? Absolutely not.
Vouchers remain to be a hot topic in the Arizona legislature. This year, they amounted to about $430 million of the state budget. In Washington, Lauren Bly, Cronkite News.
With varying perspectives on how to address these challenges, it is clear that the conversation around school vouchers and public funding is far from settled. A new report shows tourism at Arizona's most famous landmark has led to a boom in the local economy. The National Park Service announced the Grand Canyon brought in $768 million to communities near the park. Data analysts found visitors spent $9 million more last year compared to 2022. The 4.7 million park visitors helped support more than 10,000 local jobs. That's it for tonight's news headlines. I'm Ryan Posesnik. Now back to Nash and Keith.
Coming up next, a secret millions and millions of years in the making.
And this secret was just literally uncovered. After the break, find out what's found right underneath a school building. We'll have the strange story when we return here on Cronkite News.
3, 2, 1.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
Coming up on the cut.
How students can build their broadcast journalism portfolio with opportunities to learn more about on-air reporting and studio production.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at @thecut_network and on X at @CutASU.
What Cronkite News means to me is opportunity.
We do news right at Cronkite News, serving a community ethically, honestly, and truthfully.
And we can provide a necessarily different angle, different voice for those people that really need it.
The students, they have a lot of passion for journalism.
I get to do a lot of stories about the Hispanic community.
And we have access to cover all of these sorts of events and get media coverage of all these different personalities and athletes, and that's just a huge thing.
But it's also a chance for people here to be humanized, individuals of all walks of life.
Cronkite News will help take the next generation of journalists onto their next careers.
I am old enough to remember Walter Cronkite.
We're putting a lot of pride on his name because we are practicing a lot of the things that he did.
I think he'd be smiling from ear to ear.
I.
We are Cronkite.
Welcome back. Good news for those of us looking to purchase a home. Mortgage rates have fallen again.
That's right, Keith. The rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage now stands at 6.2%, which is the lowest it's been since February of 2023. But there may be even brighter news in the horizon. Experts predict the Federal Reserve could cut rates soon, which would be the first cut by the feds in about 4 years. The Fed's next meeting is scheduled for next week. A secret was just uncovered at a California high school.
That's right, and this secret dates back millions of years. Earlier this week, ancient fossils were found under a campus of a school in San Pedro, which is in greater Los Angeles. The fossils belong to sharks and whales that lived about 9 million years ago. But that's not all. Researchers also found some of the fossils from extinct species, including ancient dolphin and saber-toothed salmon. Experts say that this is one of the best looks we have into Southern California's ancient past. That's it for tonight's edition of Cronkite News. I'm Keith Hall.
And I'm Nash Dara. Thank you for joining us.